Hello and welcome to today's Blender tutorial. It's September 30th and today's tutorial is on raycasting. We're using Blender 2.59 and the particular raycasting functionality we want to get to today is having our box player, it's a shapely rectangle shape, move over a terrain that's not necessarily a flat ground plane. You can see it curves here, and we would like our box not to continue in a straight line forever, but to follow the shape of the plane, or the terrain rather, so that it's always roughly the same height above the ground. So how are we going to do that? Well, the way to do it is with a couple of calls from Python, raycasting calls. So I've loaded up my file, and it's right here, raycast Kenny. And I've saved it internally, so I'm going to do save right now. But you can also make it internal, and I believe that bundles it with the .blend file. So if you're sending it to friends, they will also get that. A couple of other things that are nice, you get error messages that tell you what number line it's on. So click here for the number, and click here to get everything in color so that, for example, internal functions get purple. Now we are using BGE, the Blender game engine, and that means that we are not going to be able to just simply run the script. If we do, we'll get an error, and we'll have to go and find that error in the system console. There it is. And a reminder, never press the minus sign. It makes it disappear forever. Just click away like that. So we have a function that we can use called raycast2. I'm going to walk you through the Python code here, and then we're going to see this in action. First of all, we import necessary tools. I've defined a utility function here called myVectorPrint. This is just because the default for Python is about 10 decimal places, and it tends to run over on the console window and make a bit of a mess. So I've just truncated it at 2 decimal places so that it's nice to look at. And here is how we go about it. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and this is the way that we access what we need. We start with the Blender game engine, logic unit, get the current controller. Right now I'm printing out for debugging, and then I would put a pound before that to ignore it later. So we get the object, which is the controller owner. We get the scene. The scene is where everything comes from, everything is stored in, so things like objects. And now we're going to get the plane. So if you want to know what your ground plane is called, there it is, it's called plane. So you put it in quotes, and you ask the obj list, OBJ list, that we define up here, scene.objects, to find the plane object. So we get the ground plane, and then I get the player object, doing the same thing from player. I've named our cube player. One thing that I'm going to do before we go any further, I'm going to turn on the screencast keys. So now when I do something like that, you see I get clicks, and you can also get keyboard events. We don't need this anymore, so let's get rid of it. There we go. All right, so we're just about ready to see this in action. We're going to go down a little bit further. I do have a lot of comments in here, and if you download the blend file, you can see some more details of what's going on here. But basically, there's two ways to call raycasting. Raycast2 is called from the player object itself, or from any object. And it's nice because it ignores the fact that if you raycast from the origin, the ray goes through the box, and it would detect that self box. And so raycast2 is nice for that. The problem with raycast2 is it returns the hit object, and for this, that's this plane, and it gives you this point no matter where you are, because it's returning, you only get the object, then you ask the position of the object, and it's not detailed enough. So instead of using raycast2, we use the other function that's available to us, which is called raycast. So here it is. And in this case, we don't call it from a particular object. We call it from OBJ, which is defined way up at the top here. That's our controller owner. All right. So perhaps better names would be good to do in the future. we'll live with that for now. So I've got a whole bunch of print statements to make sure that everything is making sense to us. I'm going to first turn off the adjustment to world position, and you'll see what normally happens without this raycasting trick. So we're going to go in here, press play, I think, and away we go. The box just goes straight. How does it go straight? Well, that's because I've got the logic hooked up with all of these boxes. If I click on the box object, the player object, you can see that I've got a whole bunch of keyboard elements, and these are basically left and right cursors. And then there's also ones for turning. These all go to motion controllers. These are in the logic editor. If, however, I want to call this Python function, I will use an always sensor. The always sensor is going to trigger on every frame. Unless you change this to make it delay more than 0 is 0 delays, you can make it delay logic ticks by going up in frequency. Very important, I did not know this until today. This has to be activated. It's activated by being slightly darker gray. And that is activating that true level triggering is on. That means it's going to be a pulse. It's not just going to remain true forever, which isn't enough to fire this Python script every frame. You need to have the triggering on. So it's going to run this script that we choose here. And normally we connect it to a actuator, but in this case we have no need because the Python script does everything we need. So we're now going to run it without without getting rid of the adjustment to the height. And now you'll see this script doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Here we are running. Ooh, that's just right. That is just right. Okay, so we'll escape from here. We're going to look at it one more time from the camera perspective, and now you'll see our player running around using raycasting, and that is the end of our tutorial.